Did you know that you can buy brand new Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games in 2024? I'm talking about brand new games released within the last decade for the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, created by indie game developers and made to work on original hardware. Well, one of the companies that you can buy these types of physical brand new Game Boy and Game Boy Color releases is Bitmap Soft. Bitmap Soft is a retro video game publisher that publishes physical copies for some of your older consoles. And today I want to showcase what their physical versions look like for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, because I am about to start getting into collecting brand new Game Boy and Game Boy Color games and even some Game Boy Advance games, and I want to share that new passion with you guys watching the channel. So Bitmap Soft was kind enough to send me 2 of their physical releases, one for a Game Boy game, one for a Game Boy Color game. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the box, we're going to take a look at what's on the inside, we're going to see how good the packaging is, how good the quality is, and then I'm going to talk about the games themselves and tell you guys what I think about the games. Let's start things off with the Game Boy game, Glory Hunters. So let's look at the box. Well, first thing I can tell you is that this is a very high quality box. It's very nice and glossy, very shiny. All of the text is nice and crisp. I like the design. I like the Bitmap Soft logo on the back of the box. It, of course, shows a couple of screenshots of the game so that you can kind of get a feel for the gameplay, and it gives you some general information about the story and the gameplay that awaits in Glory Hunters. Well, let's pop the box open and see what's on the inside. So first off, I like that there's this little tab here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little tab here where you can easily pull the contents out of the box. So let's start with the manual, shall we? One of the things that I hate about newer physical games these days is the fact that you don't get a manual with the release. So being able to get a physical manual with these brand new physical Game Boy and Game Boy Color releases is awesome. And this is, of course, in the style of the original Game Boy manuals. And flipping through, it is a high quality manual, just like the box. It's nice and glossy. The printing is really high quality. And just like any good manual, it's going to start by telling you about the story of the game. And then flipping through from there, it's going to tell you the controls. What sort of information is on the HUD? What is in your inventory screen? And then it jumps to some credits and a good old fashioned notes section. So very nice quality instruction booklet there. We, of course, have the insert that holds the cartridge, which is nice. And in the cartridge, they were nice enough to include in a plastic cartridge protector. Now, opening this up and looking at the cartridge itself, cartridge feels like it's very well made. Very high quality. It feels like a Game Boy cartridge. I like that this one is black. It very much matches the vibe and aesthetic of the game. Sticker looks really good. Again, really nice printing quality, nice and glossy. It's a little crooked on the front of the game pack, but I assume that they probably placed it by hand, so it's probably hard to get it perfectly straight. Now, one thing that I do wish that this section of the cartridge wasn't completely blank. So Bitmap Soft, if you are watching, my recommendation would be to figure out some way to print your logo or company name on the cartridge in that section of the cartridge. All in all, the cartridge looks really nice. I'm very, very happy with the quality of the cartridge itself. And that is Glory Hunters. Now, let's change gears and take a look at a little bit of an unboxing for one of their Game Boy Color releases. And for this one, we're going to look at Powerball Monsters Quest. Right off the bat, the front of this box really pops. And again, just like Glory Hunters, very high quality box, nice and glossy, nice and shiny. All the text is easy to read. I love the design of the spine on this one with the name of the game, very colorful. And then of course on the back, we have a couple of screenshots of the game, some general information about the story. Now let's crack the box open and see what's on the inside. Very carefully here. And again, it has this nice little pull tab that makes it really easy to pull everything out. Now, the cool thing about Powerball Monsters Quest is not only do we have a manual, which we're going to look at in just a second, but it also comes with some stickers. So it's really nice to get something else extra in the box. But the manual, again, very high quality manual in the style of a Game Boy and Game Boy Color manual. Nicely cut, nicely put together, high quality printing, nice and glossy. Has some information about Bitmap Soft, which was established in 2019. So they're still a relatively new company. Flipping through here again, we have information about the story in Powerball. We have some information about the different game modes that you can play and how to navigate those, the different controls, what are the different power-ups and power items you can get, the different bosses that you will be fighting throughout the course of the game, credits, and again, a nice old-fashioned note section. So that's a really awesome manual design. Now, the cartridge itself, again, we have the cartridge holder. The cartridge is in a plastic protector. Now, I really like that this one is a blue cartridge. It's in a really nice dark blue as well. I really like that. Again, the front sticker, high quality, glossy, everything's easy to read, very colorful. But again, I do wish that there was something printed on that part of the cartridge, like the company logo or just the name of the company in general. But all in all, that is a pretty nice looking cartridge. So I have to say, I'm actually really impressed with not only the quality of the box, but the quality of the manual, the quality of the cartridge, the quality of the packaging in general from Bitmap Soft. The only suggestion that I would have to Bitmap Soft is to print something on that blank part of the cartridge that we mentioned earlier. But all in all, I mean, this feels like what you would get back in the day when you buy a physical game from Nintendo or a third-party company on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color. So, Bitmap Soft, very well done. So what about the games themselves? Are they actually fun? Let's start off by talking about Glory Hunters, which is a top-down Zelda-like action-adventure game, but it also has some really unique gameplay mechanics and some twists. But first, let me tell you what the story is in the game, and I'm actually going to read right from the rulebook because it summarizes everything actually pretty well. So here we go. Hail, fellow hero. So you decided to become a glory hunter, huh? Well, then you are in the right place. The Hunters Guild welcomes you with open arms. In the world of Glorianta, everything is about glory points. You can upgrade your inventory and visit new areas by paying glory points. Glory points are awarded by achieving goals through many actions like talking to the people living in this world, cutting some plants, defeating shameful monsters, and many other activities found within Glorianta. Try as many stuff as you can to bathe in glory. A massive object is about to strike Earth and you are the only one who can stop it. The main goal is to reach one of the corners of the world to ask one of the vessels of the gods to help you stop the impending doom. Vessels can be found in the corners of this land, so it is up to you to travel northeast, northwest, southeast, or southwest to find one of them and fulfill your destiny. Before you start your quest, I must warn you, a difficult road lies upon you, and the freedom to choose your path comes with consequences. Glory points will be harder to get as you progress through your quest because the next achievement that grants them will require more time and more work. Be wise as to how you use them and let glory give you strength on your hunt. So that both explained the story as well as one of the major gameplay mechanics in Glory Hunters, which is the mechanic of getting glory points, which also ties into two other things I really like about the game, and that is player freedom and branching paths. So I haven't beat this game yet, but from what I'm starting to gather is there are 4 different ways to end the game, and that is to wake up one of the sleeping gods in one of the 4 corners of the world. How you do that is by spending your glory points, and you get glory points by doing a variety of things like reading signs, talking to people, chopping down bushes, destroying rocks, killing enemies. There are a ton of different ways to obtain glory points, and you can use glory points to do things like increasing your life, upgrading your sword, getting guards to open up new paths in the world. How you choose to spend your glory points as you acquire them is up to you, but you have to spend them smart and wisely so that you can pick the proper path that you want to go on in the game. Now, as far as the combat goes, you have a sword and you can swing your sword, and so far in the game that's pretty much it. So that's one of the negatives of the game for me, and it's not a huge negative, but it is very simplistic and basic combat. It's just swinging your sword. I haven't acquired any new weapons or any significant upgrades that change up the combat, but this game seems to be more about the exploration and the open-ended nature of the game, and you forging your own path as the player and deciding how you want to spend your glory points. It also has dungeons just like you would see in a top-down Zelda game. I encountered one so far through the course of my gameplay, and it's actually pretty challenging. I've yet to beat that dungeon. I've yet to make it to the boss of that dungeon. And part of the reason why this game is so challenging, it's actually a little frustrating, and it's another little nitpick of mine in the game. So far, I've not seen any way to heal yourself outside of backtracking to an inn and paying the innkeeper or whatever. I don't think it's an inn, but it's a place where you can heal, and you have to pay the person a certain material to heal your hearts back. So there's no hearts drops, and there don't seem to be any kind of potions or anything like that. So that's very frustrating. It's a small nitpick, and I'm willing to overlook it because Glory Hunters is truly a unique experience on the Game Boy. It is a unique take on that sort of top-down traditional Zelda-like genre. Another sort of negative for me for the game, and again, this is just a small nitpick, but the hit detection with the enemies seems to be a little wonky. It's just a small nitpick. Overall, I'm really enjoying my time so far with Glory Hunters. It's a very unique experience, a very unique take on that traditional top-down Zelda formula, and it's one that I would recommend. I think you guys should check out, and it's one that I'm definitely going to finish playing through, and I might play through it multiple times to experience the 4 different corners, because I assume the ending is probably different for each one, but I don't know that for sure. All right, now let's talk about Powerball Monsters Quest. This is a Game Boy Color game, and it's sort of a Pong / Brick Breaker style game, but it has some twists and it has some uniqueness to it that I really like. So it also has a kind of quirky, interesting story. So the story of Powerball Monsters Quest, and the reason why it's called Monsters Quest, is because you were originally a human and you're deeply in love with the princess of the land and you want to marry her, but the king opposes it so much that he used magic to turn you into a monster. And then the king tucks this princess away within the castle and hides her from you so that he can force her into a marriage with another prince. So you enter this competition, this high stakes event called Powerball, to try to show the king your true worth, try to turn back into a human, rescue the princess, and ultimately get the girl. So it's a really interesting story for a Pong / Brick Breaker game, but it kind of plays into the gameplay. Now, from what I can tell, I haven't beat it yet because this game's actually pretty challenging. I've made it to the second kind of zone. From what I can tell, it's broken up into 4 different zones. Each zone ends in a boss fight and consists of, I believe, about 8 stages. And the goal of each stage is to break enough blocks or achieve some kind of other objective to open the door, and then you have to make the ball go through the door, and then you'll progress to the next level. It is traditional kind of Pong Brick Breaker like gameplay where you just move left to right whenever you make your ball go forward. You move left and right and hit the ball back and forth to try to break the bricks. There are some unique nuances to the game, like different obstacles that you're going to run into in each level. As an example, later levels you might encounter cannons that are stationary that periodically fire a cannonball, and if that cannonball hits you, it will freeze you for a short period of time, which could cause you to miss the ball. Now, if you hit the cannons enough time with your ball, they'll eventually be destroyed. You won't have to worry about them anymore. Some levels, there are chests that you have to hit enough times to open up, and then it drops a key, and then you have to pick up the key, and that will unlock the door. There's bonus stages, and then of course at the end of each zone is a boss fight where you have to break the bricks to get to the boss, and then hit the boss enough times with your ball to defeat the boss, all while dodging the boss's moves, because if the boss hits you, it will cause you to stop for a moment, and of course, like I said earlier, you might lose the ball. Also, when you hit enough bricks in a row, it might drop a little egg with a number on it. Some of these will be power-ups that will help you, some of them will actually hurt you, and so eventually throughout the course of the game, you got to try to memorize the numbers of the eggs so that you know which ones to avoid versus which ones to try to get for those power-ups. Now, another cool thing that I really like is after each level, you get to add a point to one of 3 different categories, being power, resistance, and magic. Every 4 points you put into power makes it so that it's less hits to break a brick. Resistance, every 4 points you put into resistance gives you an extra ball every level, so it's essentially an extra life. And then magic allows you to fire more fireballs. So in the game, you can press the B button to fire 1 fireball, which will break a brick. And if you pump points into magic, then you'll get more fireballs in in each stage. It's not all positive. There are a few things that I don't like about Powerball Monsters Quest. One is sort of a personal preference, kind of a nitpick, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, you may or may not care, and that is that there are no continues. So if you lose all your lives, all your balls in a level, you have to start all the way back at the beginning of the game. That's very, very punishing. I feel like there should have at least been some type of continue system so that you don't get sent all the way back to the beginning, but it's got that old school difficulty, so, you know, I'm willing to overlook that. Another thing is sometimes it's really hard to aim where you want the ball to go. There have been many situations where I've broke every single brick, and all I got to do is get the ball to go through the door, and I just cannot get it to go through the door. Now, it might just be me. That might be a me problem, but I feel like it's a little hard to control exactly where you want the ball to go. And my biggest issue with Powerball Monsters Quest is that the hitboxes for the blocks are not great. Your ball will literally go through half of the block and not break it. You have to hit it dead in the center, it feels like, to break it, and that was a little frustrating. But these are all just minor complaints, minor nitpicks. They don't take away from the overall experience, and overall, I really enjoy Powerball Monsters Quest, and I'm gonna keep playing it until eventually maybe I'll beat it, but it's a pretty challenging game. So to sum up, both Glory Hunters and Powerball Monsters Quest are both really good games. If you guys like, you know, kind of a Pong breaker style game, I recommend Powerball Monsters Quest. If you like top-down Zelda-like action-adventure games with a unique twist, then I highly recommend checking out Glory Hunters. Huge thank you to Bitmap Soft for sending me these two games. Really appreciate you guys. And I have to say, I'm very, very happy with the quality of their physical releases. And in terms of the quality of the games themselves, I felt like Glory Hunters and Powerball Monsters Quest, while not being perfect games, I had a few nitpicks. There were a few negatives that I pointed out. Overall, I feel like these are two really solid games that capture the essence of what it means to be a Game Boy and a Game Boy Color game. I definitely recommend Bitmap Soft to you guys. I think this is a great company doing great work, and if you want to support them and purchase some of their games, there is a discount code exclusive to you guys, and I will flash that on the screen right here. So use that coupon code you see on the screen right here, and it will get you a certain percentage off of your order. Use that at checkout and knock off a few bucks off of your order with Bitmap Soft. And I will, of course, leave their website in the description down below. This is going to be a new addiction for me, so you're going to see more of these types of videos in the very near future. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did in the comments down below. Let me know if you've purchased any brand new released physical games on the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance, and if you have any recommendations, throw those in the comments down below. Check out Bitmap Soft, link down below. Use that discount code for a certain percentage off your order, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.